When Ethan Ward walked into that upscale restaurant with his new girlfriend on his arm, he thought he was just showing off his wealth and success. He had no idea his entire world was about to shatter with a single glance. Because standing there, 7 months pregnant and wearing a waitress uniform, was the one woman he'd spent 2 years trying to forget. His ex-wife, Naomi. The woman his father had convinced him to divorce. The woman he'd walked away from because pride mattered more than love. But here's what Ethan didn't know yet. That baby she was carrying, it was his. And the choice he'd have to make between his father's approval and the family he never knew he had would either redeem him or destroy him completely. Subscribe and comment below if you've ever had to choose between love and family expectations, because this story is about to get messier than you can imagine. The restaurant was the kind of place that made Ethan Ward feel powerful. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead. Soft piano music floated through the air. White tablecloths draped every table like snow. Even the silverware gleamed under the warm lights. Ethan adjusted his watch, a Rolex that cost more than most people's cars. He smiled at Clara as they walked through the entrance. She clung to his arm, her red dress catching everyone's attention. That's what he liked about Clara. She looked good on his arm. She made him feel like he'd made it. "This place is gorgeous," Clara whispered, her eyes wide as she took in the elegant dining room. "Only the best," Ethan said. His voice carried confidence, pride even. He'd worked hard to build his fortune. At 30 years old, he owned 3 successful businesses. He lived in a mansion on the hill. He drove a car that turned heads. But tonight, something felt off. A knot sat in his stomach, tight and uncomfortable. He couldn't explain it, just a strange feeling that wouldn't go away. The hostess led them to a corner booth with a view of the city lights. Clara slid into the seat across from him, already pulling out her phone to take pictures. "The girls are going to die when they see this," she said, angling her phone to capture the chandelier behind them. Ethan nodded, but his mind wandered. He looked around the restaurant, at the wealthy couples sharing wine, at the business deals happening over steak dinners, at the carefully arranged flowers on each table. Everything perfect, everything controlled. "Ethan!" Clara's voice pulled him back. "You okay? You seem distracted." "I'm fine." He forced a smile. "Just thinking about work." That was a lie. He wasn't thinking about work at all. He was thinking about the empty feeling that followed him everywhere lately. The loneliness that money couldn't fix. The hole in his chest that Clara's laughter couldn't fill. "You work too hard," Clara said, reaching across the table to touch his hand. "You need to relax, have fun, enjoy what you've earned." Before he could respond, a waitress approached their table. She wore the restaurant's standard uniform, a crisp white shirt and black pants, her hair pulled back neatly. She carried 2 menus and a pitcher of water. Ethan glanced up, ready to order a drink. His heart stopped. The woman standing at their table was Naomi. His Naomi, except she wasn't his anymore, hadn't been for 2 years, and she was pregnant, very pregnant. Her belly curved out beneath the white shirt, round and full. The pitcher slipped from Naomi's hands. Time seemed to slow down. The glass shattered against the floor. Water splashed across the tile, soaking Ethan's expensive shoes. Ice cubes scattered like diamonds. "Naomi," Ethan breathed. Her name fell from his lips before he could stop it. Plotted narrative progression and emotional development for story. Good start. "I'm establishing the setting, introducing the main characters, and building to the shocking moment. I need to continue with the immediate aftermath and show the emotional impact. Let me continue with more of Chapter 1 and move into Chapter 2. Naomi's brown eyes went wide. Her hand flew to her mouth. She looked at him, really looked at him, and he saw everything in that gaze. Shock, pain, fear, and something else he couldn't quite name. "I'm so sorry," Naomi stammered, her voice shaking. She dropped to her knees, trying to gather the broken glass with trembling hands. "I'm so sorry, I'll clean this up right away." Other waiters rushed over with towels and brooms. Naomi's manager appeared, a thin man with a sharp voice. "Naomi, what happened?" "I'm sorry, sir, I dropped it. I'm sorry." Naomi wouldn't look up. She kept her head down, her hands moving frantically to pick up the mess. Clara leaned forward, her perfectly shaped eyebrows drawn together in confusion. "Do you know her, Ethan?" Ethan couldn't speak. His throat had closed up tight. He watched Naomi kneel on the wet floor, pregnant and shaking, and something inside him cracked wide open. 2 years. It had been 2 years since he'd seen her. 2 years since their divorce was finalized. 2 years since his father had convinced him that letting her go was the right choice, the smart choice, the only choice for a man of his position. Now, here she was, carrying someone's child, working as a waitress in the restaurant where he'd brought his new girlfriend. The universe had a cruel sense of humor. "Ethan," Clara's voice rose, sharper now. "Do you know her or not?" Naomi stood up, helped by another waiter. Her manager grabbed her elbow. "Take your break," he hissed. "Get yourself together. You can't serve customers like this." "No, please," Naomi said quietly. "I'm fine. I can work. I need to work. Break, now." The manager's tone left no room for argument. Naomi finally met Ethan's eyes, just for a second. In that moment, he saw the woman he'd married 4 years ago, the woman who'd laughed at his terrible jokes, the woman who'd believed in him before the money came, the woman whose heart he'd broken because he'd been too proud, too stubborn, too scared to stand up to his father. Then she looked away and disappeared into the back of the restaurant. Clara slammed her hand on the table. "Ethan Ward, answer me right now. Who is that woman?" Ethan's mouth felt dry. "My ex-wife," he said. The words hung in the air between them. Clara's face went white, then red. "Your ex-wife? Your ex-wife is pregnant and working here? And you didn't think to mention that she—" "I didn't know she worked here," Ethan cut in. His mind was spinning. 7 months pregnant, maybe more. He tried to do the math in his head. When had they divorced? When had they last? No, it couldn't be his. They'd been separated for over 2 years. The divorce had been final for 18 months. There was no way. But doubt crept in anyway, cold and persistent. "This is unbelievable." Clara grabbed her purse. "You brought me here to a place where your pregnant ex-wife works." "I didn't know, Clara. I swear I had no idea." "Well, now you do." She stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. "And you know what? I can see it all over your face. You still have feelings for her." "Clara, wait." "No." She held up her hand. "You're shaken. You can barely breathe. That's not the reaction of a man who's moved on." She grabbed her coat. "Call me when you figure out what you actually want." She stormed out of the restaurant, her heels clicking sharply against the tile. Ethan sat alone at the table, surrounded by whispers. Other diners had noticed the scene. They stared, curious and judgmental. He could feel their eyes on him. He didn't care. The only thing that mattered was the door where Naomi had disappeared. The staff break room was small and cramped. Naomi pressed her back against the wall, trying to catch her breath. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Ethan, here, in her restaurant. She'd spent 2 years trying to forget him. 2 years building a new life, piece by painful piece. She'd moved to a smaller apartment. She'd taken this job because the tips were good and she needed every penny. She'd learned to be strong on her own. And now he was here, looking at her with those blue eyes that used to make her feel like the only woman in the world. "You okay, girl?" Her co-worker, Maria, touched her shoulder gently. "That was intense out there." Naomi nodded, not trusting her voice. "Was that really your ex?" Another nod. "And he's with someone new?" Naomi closed her eyes. The image of Clara was burned into her mind. Beautiful, polished, everything Naomi used to try to be when she was married to Ethan. Everything his family had wanted her to be, but never believed she could pull off. "He looked like he'd seen a ghost," Maria said softly. "Especially when he saw—" She glanced down at Naomi's belly. Naomi's hand moved instinctively to her stomach, protective and fierce. This baby was hers, her miracle, her reason for getting up every morning and fighting through the exhaustion and the loneliness. She'd been terrified when she'd first seen those 2 pink lines on the pregnancy test. Terrified and alone in her tiny bathroom, with no one to tell, no one to hold her. She'd cried for hours that day, but then the fear had turned into something else, something stronger. This baby would be loved. This baby would know its mother would never abandon it, never choose pride over family, never let anyone make it feel less than, not like Ethan had done to her. "Naomi," her manager stuck his head into the break room. "Table 7 needs a server. You good to go back out?" "She just had a shock," Maria protested. "Give her a minute. We're short-staffed tonight. I need everyone on the floor." He looked at Naomi, his expression softening just slightly. "Can you handle it?" Naomi straightened her spine. She'd handled worse than this. She'd handled divorce papers served by a lawyer she couldn't afford to fight. She'd handled watching Ethan choose his father's approval over their marriage. She'd handled 9 months of pregnancy completely alone. She could handle serving dinner to her ex-husband. "I'm fine," she said. Her voice came out steady, strong. "I can work." Maria squeezed her hand. "You sure?" "I need the money." That was the truth, that overrode everything else. Tips from a place like this could mean the difference between making rent and ending up on her mother's couch. She walked back onto the floor with her head high. She wouldn't let Ethan Ward see her crumble. Not again. But when she approached the table, only Ethan remained. The beautiful woman in the red dress was gone. Ethan looked up as Naomi approached. Their eyes met and held. "Where's your date?" Naomi asked. She kept her voice professional, detached, just a waitress talking to a customer. "She left." Ethan's voice was rough, like he'd swallowed gravel. "I can get another server if you'd prefer." "No." He said it too quickly, too desperately. "Please, stay, just for a minute." Naomi's jaw tightened. "I'm working, Ethan. I can't just stand here and chat. Then I'll order something." He grabbed the menu without looking at it. "Whatever, I don't care. Just, please." She pulled out her notepad, her hand shaking slightly despite her best efforts to stay calm. "What would you like? Whose baby is it?" The question hit her like a physical blow. Naomi's pen froze on the paper. Heat rushed to her face. "Excuse me? The baby?" Ethan's eyes dropped to her stomach, then back to her face. "Whose is it?" The nerve of him, the absolute nerve. He had no right to ask her anything, not after what he'd done, not after he'd chosen his father's money and approval over her, not after he'd let his family treat her like she wasn't good enough, like she'd never be good enough. "That's none of your business," Naomi said. Her voice came out colder than the ice water she'd spilled earlier. "Naomi, my name is Miss Carter here, and you're a customer, so unless you're ready to order, I have other tables to serve." She turned to walk away. Ethan's hand shot out and grabbed her wrist. The touch sent electricity through her arm. Wrong. It was all wrong. She shouldn't still feel anything when he touched her. "Don't," she whispered. "Don't you dare." Ethan let go immediately, his hand dropping to the table. "I'm sorry. Naomi, please, talk to me." "There's nothing to talk about." She stepped back, putting distance between them. "We're divorced. We have been for a long time. My life is none of your concern anymore. But the baby is mine." Her voice rang out sharper than she intended. A few nearby diners glanced over. Naomi lowered her voice. "Mine, not yours, not anyone's, but mine." She walked away before he could say another word. Her legs felt shaky. Her eyes burned with tears she refused to let fall. Not here. Not in front of everyone. Not in front of him. She made it to the staff corridor before the first tear slipped down her cheek. Ethan sat frozen at the table. His mind raced, trying to make sense of everything. Naomi was pregnant. His Naomi, no, not his anymore, was 7 or 8 months pregnant and working as a waitress. The thought made him sick. She'd looked so tired. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. Her uniform was clean but worn. Her shoes were scuffed. This wasn't the life he'd pictured for her after their divorce. He'd imagined what? That she'd be okay. That she'd move on easily. That she'd find someone better. Apparently, she had found someone. Someone who'd gotten her pregnant. And then what? Left her to work on her feet for hours, carrying trays while carrying a child. Rage burned through him, hot and fierce. What kind of man did that? What kind of man left Naomi alone like this? Then a worse thought crashed into him. What if it was his? No, it couldn't be. They'd been separated for over 2 years. The timeline didn't work. Unless... His mind flashed back to that night, 6 months after they'd separated. They'd run into each other at a mutual friend's party. They'd both had too much wine. They'd talked for hours, remembering the good times, avoiding the bad. And then, Ethan's hands gripped the edge of the table. He pulled out his phone and did the math. That night had been exactly 9 months ago. His heart slammed against his ribs. It could be his. The baby could actually be his. He stood up so fast his chair nearly tipped over. He had to find her, had to talk to her, had to know the truth. A waiter appeared at his elbow. "Sir, is everything all right?" "Where did she go?" "The woman who was serving our table." "Miss Carter." "She's in the back, sir. I can get you another server." "No, I need to talk to her, now." The waiter's eyes widened. "Sir, I'm afraid you can't go back there. It's employees only." Ethan pulled out his wallet and threw down $500 bills. "For the trouble, now tell me where she is." The waiter looked at the money, then at Ethan's face. Whatever he saw there made him step aside and point toward a door marked staff only. Ethan didn't hesitate. He pushed through the door into a narrow hallway. The sounds of the kitchen filled the space. Clattering dishes, shouting chefs, the hiss of something frying. He spotted Naomi at the end of the hall, leaning against the wall with her eyes closed. She looked exhausted, defeated. so different from the strong, vibrant woman he'd married. Naomi. Her eyes flew open. When she saw him, her expression hardened. Get out. You can't be back here. Is it mine? The question hung between them like a bomb waiting to explode. Naomi pushed off the wall. Did you seriously just follow me into the employee area to ask me that? Is it mine? He repeated, moving closer. No. The word was flat, final, but Ethan saw the flicker in her eyes, the slight hesitation before she answered. You're lying. I'm not. But her voice wavered. Naomi, please, I need to know. If that baby is mine, then what? She cut him off, her voice rising. What will you do, Ethan? Swoop in like some hero, throw money at me? Try to buy your way into being a father after you threw away being a husband? That's not fair. Fair? Naomi laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want to talk about fair? You let your father destroy our marriage. You chose his approval over me, over us, and now you think you can just show up and demand answers. I made mistakes. You made choices. Tears streamed down her face now, angry and hot. You chose him. You chose the money. You chose to let me go rather than fight for what we had. I was wrong. The words ripped out of him. I was so wrong, Naomi. I've regretted it every single day since. Well, that makes two of us. She wiped her face roughly. But regret doesn't change anything. We're done. We've been done, so please just leave me alone. I can't. Ethan stepped closer until only inches separated them. Not if that's my child you're carrying. Naomi's hand moved to her belly again, that protective gesture he was starting to recognize. Even if it is, she said quietly, you lost the right to be involved the day you signed those divorce papers. She pushed past him and disappeared back into the restaurant. Ethan stood alone in the hallway, his heart breaking all over again. By the time Naomi's shift ended at midnight, every part of her body ached, her feet throbbed, her back screamed. The baby had been kicking all night, as if picking up on her stress. She changed out of her uniform in the staff room, moving slowly. Maria had already left, and Naomi was grateful for the solitude. She needed space to think, to breathe, to process the nightmare her evening had become. Ethan had left an hour after their confrontation. She'd seen him go, watched from across the dining room as he walked out the door. Part of her had felt relief. Another part, a part she hated, had felt disappointment. She grabbed her purse and coat, then stepped out into the cold night air. The parking lot was nearly empty. Her old car sat under a broken streetlight, looking as tired as she felt. The drive home took 30 minutes. Naomi lived on the other side of town now, far from the mansion she'd shared with Ethan, far from that life of country clubs and charity galas where she'd never quite fit in. Her apartment building was old but clean. She climbed the 2 flights of stairs carefully, one hand on the railing, the other on her belly. By the time she reached her door, she was breathing hard. The lights were on inside. Her mother was there. Naomi opened the door to find Linda Carter sitting on the worn couch, a cup of tea growing cold on the coffee table beside her. Mama, Naomi sighed. I told you not to wait up. Linda stood. She was a small woman, barely 5 feet tall, but her presence filled the room. Strength and love radiated from her in equal measure. You look terrible, Linda said bluntly. What happened? Naomi dropped her purse on the floor and sank into the armchair. He was there, at the restaurant. Who was? Linda's eyes widened. Ethan? Naomi nodded, too tired to say more. That man. Linda's voice hardened. After everything he put you through, he has the nerve to show his face. It's not like he knew I worked there, Mama. Still, Linda sat back down, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. He saw you, saw the baby? Everybody saw. Naomi's voice cracked. I dropped a whole pitcher of water right in front of him. Made a complete fool of myself. You're not a fool. You were shocked. Linda reached over and took her daughter's hand. What did he say? He asked whose baby it was. Linda's grip tightened. And what did you tell him? That it wasn't his business. Good. But Mama... Naomi looked down at their joined hands. I think he knows. Or suspects. He asked me directly if it was his. Silence filled the room. Finally Linda spoke. Is it? Naomi pulled her hand away. You know it is. Then he has a right. No. Naomi stood up, agitation making her pace despite her exhaustion. He has no rights. He walked away from me, from us. He chose his father, and that life over our marriage. But this is different. This is a child. My child. Naomi's hand went to her belly again. I'm the one who's been going to every doctor's appointment alone. I'm the one working double shifts to save money. I'm the one who's going to raise this baby. Me, not him. Linda was quiet for a long moment. Then she said softly, "Baby girl, I understand you're angry. You have every right to be. But that man looked at you tonight, and he suspected the truth. He's going to come looking for answers. Then I'll tell him the same thing I told him tonight. It's none of his business. Even if he deserves to know? Especially because he doesn't deserve to know." Naomi's voice broke. "He doesn't deserve to be part of this miracle after he destroyed everything we had." Linda stood and wrapped her arms around her daughter. Naomi collapsed into the embrace, finally letting herself cry. All the tears she'd held back at work came pouring out. "I'm scared, Mama," she whispered into her mother's shoulder. "I'm so scared." "Of what, baby?" "That he'll try to take the baby away from me. That he'll use his money and his lawyers like his father did during the divorce. That I'll lose everything all over again." "Shh." Linda stroked her hair like she'd done when Naomi was a little girl. "Nobody's taking this baby from you hear me? Nobody." But even as her mother spoke the words, Naomi felt doubt creeping in. Ethan was rich, powerful, connected. If he wanted to fight her for custody, he had resources she couldn't match. She'd barely been able to afford a lawyer during the divorce. She'd had to accept Ethan's father's settlement offer because fighting would have bankrupted her. James Ward had made sure of that, dragging out the process, filing motion after motion until Naomi had no choice but to take whatever they offered. What would he do if he knew about the baby? Naomi pulled away from her mother and walked to the window. Outside, the city lights twinkled like distant stars. Somewhere out there, Ethan was probably in his mansion, probably wondering the same thing she was wondering. What happened next? "You should tell him," Linda said quietly, "before he finds out some other way." "I can't." "Why not?" "Because the moment I tell him, everything changes." Naomi pressed her hand against the cold glass. "Right now, this baby is mine, all mine. The moment he knows the truth, I have to share. And I'm not ready for that. You might not have a choice." Naomi closed her eyes. Her mother was right. Ethan wasn't the type to let things go. He'd shown up at her work. He'd followed her into the staff area. He'd asked point blank if the baby was his. He suspected. And once Ethan suspected something, he didn't stop until he had answers. She turned to face her mother. "What do I do?" Linda looked at her daughter, really looked at her, at the exhaustion in her face, at the fear in her eyes. At the protective way she cradled her belly. "You rest," Linda said firmly. "It's late, you're tired. Tomorrow you can figure out what to do about Ethan Ward. But tonight, you take care of yourself and that grandbaby of mine." Naomi nodded. She was too tired to argue, too tired to think, too tired to do anything but shuffle to her bedroom and collapse onto the bed. But even as exhaustion pulled her under, her last thought before sleep took her was of Ethan's face. The shock in his eyes, the pain, the desperate need to know the truth, and her hand moved to her belly one more time, whispering to the baby that kicked inside her. "We'll be okay," she promised. "Just you and me. We'll be okay." She just hoped she was telling the truth. Across town, Ethan stood in his enormous bedroom, staring out at the same city lights Naomi had been watching. But his view was from the top of the hill, from behind walls that kept the world at bay. Clara had texted him 3 times. He'd ignored all of them. His father had called twice. Those calls had gone to voicemail too. The only person Ethan wanted to talk to was the one person who wanted nothing to do with him. He looked down at his phone, at the background photo he'd never changed. It was from their wedding day. Naomi in a simple white dress, laughing at something he'd said. Her joy so pure and real it hurt to look at now. He'd been so happy that day, so sure of their future, so certain that love would be enough. But love hadn't been enough. Not against his father's disapproval, not against the pressure to maintain his status, not against his own pride and stubbornness. He'd let her go. He'd signed the papers. He'd told himself it was for the best, that they wanted different things, that the cultural differences were too big to overcome. All lies. The truth was simpler and more painful. He'd been a coward, and now Naomi was pregnant, possibly with his child. Working as a waitress because he'd been too proud to fight for their marriage. The thought made him sick. His phone buzzed. A text from Clara. "We need to talk." He typed back, "It's over, Clara. I'm sorry." Her response came immediately. "Because of her. You're choosing your pregnant ex-wife over me." Ethan stared at the words. Was that what he was doing? Choosing Naomi? He thought about the way his heart had stopped when he'd seen her, the way every instinct in his body had screamed at him to protect her, to help her, to be near her. the way nothing else had mattered except knowing if that baby was his. "Yes," he typed back. "I'm sorry." Clara's response was a string of angry emojis followed by, "You're going to regret this." Maybe he would, but he'd regret not fighting for Naomi more. He pulled up his contacts and scrolled to a name he hadn't called in months, his private investigator, the man who'd helped him with business deals and background checks. But then Ethan stopped. His finger hovered over the call button. No, that's not who he wanted to be. Not this time. He didn't want to investigate Naomi or dig into her life. He wanted to talk to her honestly, person to person, no lawyers, no investigators, just the two of them figuring out what came next. He just had to get her to talk to him first. And based on tonight, that was going to be the hardest battle of his life. Ethan looked back at the wedding photo on his phone, at Naomi's smile, at the love that had once been so certain between them. He'd lost her once because he hadn't fought hard enough. He wouldn't make that mistake again, even if she hated him, even if the baby wasn't his, even if he had to grovel and beg and humble himself in ways his father would despise. He would fight for Naomi Carter, and this time he wouldn't give up. The morning sun hurt Naomi's eyes. She'd barely slept. Every time she'd closed her eyes, she'd seen Ethan's face. The shock, the questions, the way he'd looked at her belly like it held all the answers to the universe. She dragged herself out of bed and into the shower. The hot water helped, but not enough. Her body ached from working a double shift while 8 months pregnant. The baby kicked, reminding her that breakfast needed to happen soon. Her mother had already left for work. A note on the refrigerator said, "Call me if you need anything." "Love you." Mama Naomi smiled despite everything. Linda Carter had been her rock through all of this. When Ethan's family had turned their backs, when the divorce had left her broken, when the pregnancy test had shown positive, her mother had been there. Steady, strong, never judging. She made toast and tea, eating slowly at the small kitchen table. Her phone sat next to her plate, silent. Part of her worried it would ring, another part worried it wouldn't. She was halfway through her second piece of toast when someone knocked on her door. Naomi froze. It was barely 8 in the morning. Who would? The knock came again, louder this time, more insistent. She walked to the door and looked through the peephole. Ethan. Her heart jumped into her throat. He stood in the hallway holding a coffee cup, his hair slightly messy like he'd been running his hands through it. He wore jeans and a simple sweater. No suit. No Rolex gleaming on his wrist. He looked almost normal. "Naomi, please," he called through the door. "I know you're home. I can hear you moving. Just give me 5 minutes." "How did you find me?" she called back, not opening the door. "Phone book. There aren't that many N. Carters in this part of town." Naomi closed her eyes. Of course, she'd never been hard to find. She just hadn't expected him to look. "Go away, Ethan. Not until we talk. We talked last night. You walked away last night." His voice softened. "Please, Naomi, 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking." She shouldn't open the door, she knew that. Opening the door meant letting him back in, and letting Ethan Ward back in was dangerous. He'd already broken her heart once, but the baby kicked again, hard enough to make her gasp. And maybe, just maybe, her child deserved to know its father, even if that father had made terrible mistakes. Naomi unlocked the door and pulled it open. Ethan's eyes went straight to her belly, then to her face. "Thank you," he said quietly. 5 minutes, that's it." She stepped aside to let him in. He walked into her small apartment, his presence somehow making the space feel even smaller. His eyes roamed over everything: the worn couch, the thrift store coffee table, the stack of baby books on the kitchen counter. "You brought coffee?" Naomi asked, eyeing the cup in his hand. "For me. I didn't know if you could have caffeine." He set it down carefully on the counter. "Can you? Have caffeine, I mean." "A little, but I prefer tea now." She crossed her arms over her chest. "You have 4 minutes left." Ethan turned to face her fully. In the morning light, she could see the dark circles under his eyes. He hadn't slept either. "Is the baby mine?" he asked. "You already asked me that, and you didn't give me a real answer." Naomi's jaw tightened. "I told you no. You told me a lot of things last night, but your eyes told me something different." He took a step closer, not threatening, just desperate. "Naomi, please, I need to know the truth." "Why? So you can what? Throw money at the problem? Set up a trust fund and disappear? So I can be a father." The words came out raw, honest. "If that baby is mine, I want to be there. I want to be involved." "You weren't involved in our marriage." The blow landed. Ethan flinched like she'd slapped him. "You're right, I wasn't. I let my father control everything. I let him convince me that you and I wanted different things, that the cultural divide was too big, That our marriage was a mistake. He ran his hand through his hair. I was wrong about all of it. And I've spent 2 years regretting every single day that I didn't fight for you. Naomi's breath caught. She'd imagined him saying words like these 1,000 times, in her dreams, in her lonely nights. But hearing them now, in her tiny kitchen, felt surreal. That doesn't change anything, she whispered. It doesn't change the past, but maybe it can change the future. Ethan gestured to her belly. If that's my child, stop saying if. The words burst out of her. Just stop. You want the truth? Fine. Yes, the baby is yours. Are you happy now? Silence filled the apartment. Ethan stared at her. His face went pale, then flushed. His hands started shaking. He reached out to steady himself on the counter. You're sure? His voice cracked. Yes. How? We've been separated for... That party. Daniel's birthday, 6 months after the separation. Naomi looked away, her cheeks burning. We both had too much wine. We talked. We remembered. And we... She couldn't finish the sentence. Made a baby. Ethan finished softly. I didn't know for weeks. By the time I found out, we were already divorced. The papers were signed. Your father had made it clear I wasn't welcome in your life anymore. Her voice hardened. So I decided you didn't need to know. That's not your decision to make. Yes, it is. Naomi whirled to face him. You gave up the right to make decisions about my life when you let your father ruin our marriage. This baby is mine. I'm the one who's been carrying it. I'm the one who's been sick and tired and scared. I'm the one who has to figure out how to be a single mother. You don't get to walk in here and act like you have any say. I'm the father. Biologically, maybe. But being a father is more than DNA, Ethan. Tears streamed down her face now. It's being there, it's showing up, it's choosing your family over everything else. And you proved you can't do that. The words hung between them like broken glass. Ethan's face crumpled. He sank onto her couch, his head in his hands. When he looked up, his eyes were wet. You're right, he said. About all of it. I failed you. I failed us. But please, Naomi, please don't shut me out of this. Let me prove I can do better. Let me be there for you and the baby. Why should I trust you? Because I love you. The words came out fierce and certain. I never stopped loving you, not for one single day, and I know I don't deserve a second chance. I know I burned that bridge to the ground, but I'm begging you anyway, please let me try. Naomi's hand moved to her belly. The baby kicked, as if responding to its father's voice. I need time, she said finally, to think, to figure out what's best for my child. Our child, Ethan corrected gently. My child, she repeated firmly, until you prove otherwise. He nodded, standing up slowly. Fair enough. Can I call you? Check on you? Make sure you're okay? Every instinct screamed at her to say no, to protect herself and her baby from the hurt she knew Ethan could cause. But another voice, quieter but insistent, whispered that everyone deserved a second chance, even people who'd broken your heart. Oh, you can call, she said carefully. But that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean we're back together. It doesn't mean you have rights. It just means I'm not shutting the door completely. I'll take it. Ethan moved toward the door, then stopped. Naomi? What? Thank you for telling me the truth and for not giving up on me completely. She didn't respond, couldn't respond. Her throat was too tight with emotions she didn't want to feel. Ethan left quietly, closing the door behind him with a soft click. Naomi sank into the chair he'd just vacated. Her hands shook, her heart raced. What had she just done? Had she made a terrible mistake? The baby kicked again, stronger this time. I hope I did the right thing, she whispered to her belly. I really hope so. Ethan drove straight to his father's house. The Ward estate sat on 5 acres of perfectly manicured lawn. The house itself was a monument to success. White columns, marble floors, rooms bigger than most people's entire homes. Ethan had grown up here. He'd learned here that image mattered more than truth, that reputation trumped happiness, that the Ward name was something to protect at all costs. He hated this house. The housekeeper let him in. His father was in the study, exactly where Ethan knew he'd be. James Ward sat behind a massive desk, reading the financial news on his tablet, a cup of black coffee at his elbow. Ethan. James looked up, surprised. I didn't expect you this morning. I thought you'd be with Clara. Clara and I are done. James frowned. Done? What happened? I ran into Naomi last night. His father's expression hardened immediately. That woman. Where? At a restaurant. She's working as a waitress. Ethan paused. And she's pregnant. James set down his tablet carefully. Pregnant with whose child? Mine. The word dropped like a bomb. James stood up slowly. "You're certain?" "She confirmed it this morning." "And you believe her?" James's voice dripped with suspicion. "Ethan, think about this. She's a waitress now, struggling. Suddenly you appear, wealthy and successful, and conveniently there's a baby. She could be lying, trying to trap you into paying child support." Rage flooded through Ethan. Don't you dare talk about her like that. I'm being practical. That's what fathers do. We protect our sons from women who want to take advantage. She's not taking advantage of anything." Ethan's voice rose. "She didn't even want to tell me. I had to push her to admit the truth. If she wanted my money, she would have come to me months ago." James studied his son. "You still have feelings for her?" "Of course I do. I never stopped." "Ethan," James's voice softened slightly. "Son, I know you think you loved her, but that marriage was doomed from the start. The cultural differences, the social gaps. Stop calling it that." Ethan cut him off. "Just say what you really mean, Dad. You didn't want me married to a black woman. You thought she wasn't good enough for the ward name. That's not—" "Yes, it is. Don't lie to me, not anymore." Ethan moved closer to the desk. "You pushed and pushed until I gave in, until I believed your lies about what was best for me. And I lost the best thing that ever happened to me because I was too much of a coward to stand up to you." James's face flushed red. "I was protecting you. From what? From being happy? From having a real marriage with someone who loved me for who I was, not for my bank account." Ethan shook his head. "Your protection ruined my life. And now what? You're going to run back to her, play happy family. If she'll let me, yes. She'll bleed you dry, Ethan. Child support, a house, a car. She'll take everything. Then she'll take it." Ethan's voice was ice cold. "Because that baby is mine, my child, and I will be there for my child with or without your approval." James walked around the desk to face his son. "You're making a mistake. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make, not yours. I'm your father, and I'm about to be one too." Ethan straightened his shoulders. "Which means I need to learn how to put my child first, something you apparently never figured out." The blow landed hard. James took a step back, shock on his face. "I'll be in touch," Ethan said. He turned and walked out of the study, out of the house, out of the life his father had tried to build for him. His hands shook as he got into his car. That had been the hardest conversation of his life, but also the most necessary. He was done living for his father's approval. From now on, he lived for Naomi and their baby. Even if he had to fight every single day to prove he deserved a place in their lives. The next day, Naomi was back at work. Her manager had reluctantly given her the previous evening off after everything that had happened, but she couldn't afford to miss more shifts. The baby would be here in less than 6 weeks, and she still didn't have enough saved. The lunch rush was brutal. Every table seemed to have a complaint. The soup was too cold. The bread wasn't fresh enough. The salad dressing was on the side when they'd wanted it mixed in. Naomi smiled through it all, her feet screaming, her back aching, the baby pressing on her bladder every 20 minutes. She was refilling water glasses at table 12 when she heard a familiar voice behind her. "Excuse me, waitress, this steak is pathetic." Naomi turned to see a middle-aged man in an expensive suit. His face was red, his voice loud enough to carry across the restaurant. "I'm sorry, sir." "What's wrong with it?" "It's overcooked. I ordered medium rare. This is medium well." He jabbed his finger at the perfectly cooked steak on his plate. "Do you people not know how to follow simple instructions?" The "you people" made Naomi's spine stiffen. She knew that tone. She'd heard it before in country club dining rooms when she'd been married to Ethan. That particular way of speaking that managed to be both polite and deeply insulting. "I apologize. I'll have the kitchen make you a new one right away. You'll do more than that. You'll comp my entire meal." He leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "I shouldn't have to pay for incompetence." "Sir, I don't have the authority to—" "Then get your manager now." Naomi's hands tightened on the water pitcher. She wanted to dump it over his smug head. But she needed this job, needed the tips, needed to swallow her pride and take the abuse because her baby needed diapers and formula and a crib. "I'll get him right away," she said through clenched teeth. She turned to go, but the man wasn't done. "And maybe lose some weight while you're at it. Pregnant waitresses are unprofessional." The restaurant went quiet. Naomi froze. Heat flooded her face. Tears burned behind her eyes. She couldn't speak, couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Then she heard a chair scrape back. "What did you just say?" Ethan's voice cut through the silence like a knife. Naomi's head snapped around. Ethan stood at a table near the window. She hadn't even known he was there. How long had he been watching? The man in the suit looked up, annoyed. This isn't your concern. Actually, it is. Ethan walked over, his expression dark. You just insulted that woman. Apologize. I don't have to apologize for anything. If she can't handle customer feedback, she shouldn't work in service. That wasn't feedback. That was cruelty. Ethan's voice was calm, but deadly. And you're going to apologize. Right now. Or what? The man stood up, puffing out his chest. You'll fight me in a restaurant? How civilized. No. I'll buy this restaurant and ban you for life. Ethan pulled out his phone. The owner is a friend of mine. One call, and you're out. Permanently. The man's face went white, then red again. You can't. I can, and I will. Unless you apologize to her right now. Other diners watched with wide eyes. Some had their phones out, recording. The man looked around, realizing he'd lost. Fine, he muttered. Sorry. Louder. And to her face. The man turned to Naomi. I'm sorry for my comments. They were inappropriate. It wasn't sincere, but it was enough. Accepted, Naomi said quietly. Now leave, Ethan said, and don't come back. The man grabbed his coat and stormed out without paying. The moment the door closed behind him, the restaurant erupted in whispers. Ethan turned to Naomi. Are you okay? She wanted to say yes, wanted to be strong, but her hands were shaking and her eyes were wet and she felt like she might collapse right there. I need a minute, she whispered. She rushed toward the staff area. Behind her, she heard Ethan following. Naomi, wait. She made it to the corridor before her knees buckled. Pain shot through her belly, sharp and sudden. She gasped, clutching the wall. Naomi! Ethan caught her before she fell. What's wrong? What hurts? The baby, she gasped. Something's wrong. Oh God, something's wrong with the baby. Ethan scooped her up without hesitation. She wanted to protest, to say she was fine, to maintain her independence, but another wave of pain hit, and all she could do was hold on. My car's right outside, Ethan said. I'm taking you to the hospital. I can't afford. I don't care. We're going, now. Her manager appeared in the doorway. Naomi? What happened? She needs a hospital, Ethan said shortly. I'm taking her. But her shift is over. Ethan's tone left no room for argument. He carried Naomi through the restaurant, past the staring diners, out into the bright afternoon sun. His car was illegally parked right in front. He didn't care. He settled Naomi gently in the passenger seat and buckled her in like she was made of glass. The pain came in waves. Naomi tried to breathe through it, tried to stay calm, but fear clawed at her chest. It's too early, she gasped as Ethan peeled out of the parking lot. The baby's not due for 6 more weeks. It's too early. The baby will be fine. You'll both be fine. But Ethan's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. He drove like a man possessed, weaving through traffic, running yellow lights. Naomi closed her eyes and focused on breathing. In and out. In and out. The baby kicked weakly, and she pressed her hand to the spot. Hold on, she whispered. Please, baby. Hold on. Ethan's hand found hers. He squeezed gently, his warmth grounding her. Almost there, he promised. Just hold on a little longer. The hospital appeared ahead. Ethan screeched to a stop at the emergency entrance and jumped out, running around to help Naomi. A nurse appeared with a wheelchair. What's wrong? She's pregnant. 8 months. She's having pain. Ethan's voice shook slightly. The nurse took one look at Naomi's face and moved fast. She wheeled Naomi inside, firing questions. How far apart were the pains? Had her water broken? When was her due date? Naomi answered as best she could, but everything was starting to blur. Fear and pain mixed together until she couldn't tell them apart. They got her into an exam room. A doctor appeared. Young, efficient, calm. Let's see what's going on, she said, helping Naomi onto the bed. I'm Dr. Patel. You're Naomi Carter. And you are? Dr. Patel looked at Ethan. The father, Ethan said immediately. Naomi was too scared to correct him. Dr. Patel examined her quickly, checking the baby's heartbeat with a monitor. The steady thump, thump, thump filled the room, the most beautiful sound Naomi had ever heard. Baby sounds good, Dr. Patel said. Heartbeat is strong. Let me check something else. More examination. More questions. Naomi gripped the sides of the bed, trying not to panic. Finally, Dr. Patel stepped back. You're having Braxton Hicks contractions. Practice contractions. Perfectly normal, though they can be painful. So the baby's okay? Naomi's voice cracked. The baby is fine. But you're dehydrated and exhausted. When was the last time you ate a real meal? Naomi tried to remember. Yesterday morning, Dr. Patel's expression hardened. You're 8 months pregnant and working on your feet without eating. That stops now. You need rest, fluids, and proper nutrition. If you keep pushing yourself like this, you could go into actual preterm labor. I have to work. You have to take care of yourself and that baby. Dr. Patel looked at Ethan. Can you make sure she rests? Absolutely, Ethan said without hesitation. I'm keeping you for observation for a few hours. We'll get some fluids in you and make sure everything stabilizes. Dr. Patel squeezed Naomi's hand. You and baby are going to be fine, but no more double shifts, no more skipping meals. Got it? Naomi nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. Got it. Dr. Patel left to order the IV. The moment she was gone, Ethan collapsed into the chair beside the bed. You scared me, he said roughly. I thought I was losing you both. I'm sorry. Don't apologize, just, please, let me help. Let me take care of you. Naomi looked at him, really looked at him, at the fear still lingering in his eyes, at the way his hands shook slightly, at the fierce protectiveness written all over his face. He'd carried her out of the restaurant. He'd driven like a madman to get her here. He'd called himself the father without hesitation. Maybe, just maybe, he meant it this time. Okay, she whispered. You can help. Ethan's eyes widened. Really? On one condition. Anything. No lawyers, no custody agreements, no trying to control everything. She took a shaky breath. We figure this out together, as equals, or not at all. Ethan stood and moved closer to the bed. He took her hand gently, carefully, like she might break. Together, he agreed. As equals. I promise. A nurse came in to start the IV. Naomi winced as the needle went in, but Ethan held her other hand the whole time. When the nurse left, silence settled over them. Comfortable, warm, almost like old times. Thank you, Naomi said quietly, for defending me. At the restaurant, that guy was a jerk. He had no right to talk to you like that. You didn't have to step in. Yes, I did. Ethan squeezed her hand. You're carrying my child. Nobody gets to treat you that way, nobody. The fierce certainty in his voice made something crack open in Naomi's chest, something she'd kept locked tight for 2 years. Hope. She was hoping again, despite everything, hoping that maybe Ethan really had changed, that maybe they could find their way back to each other. It was dangerous, foolish, probably going to end in more heartbreak. But as she lay in that hospital bed, Ethan's hand warm in hers, the baby's heartbeat steady on the monitor, Naomi let herself hope anyway. Just a little bit. Just enough. The hospital kept Naomi for 4 hours. By the time they released her, evening had fallen and the city lights twinkled outside the windows. Ethan stayed the entire time, never leaving her side. He brought her water when she asked. He adjusted her pillows. He held her hand when another false contraction made her gasp. He acted like a husband, like a partner, like someone who cared. It terrified her almost as much as it comforted her. You don't have to drive me home, Naomi said, as the nurse wheeled her to the exit. I can call my mum. I want to, Ethan said simply. Please, let me. She was too tired to argue. The drive back to her apartment was quiet, not uncomfortable, just peaceful. The radio played soft music. The streetlights cast warm glows through the windows. Naomi leaned her head back against the seat and closed her eyes. What are you thinking about? Ethan asked. How surreal this is. Yesterday you were a stranger with a new girlfriend. Today you're driving me home from the hospital. I was never a stranger, not really. Felt like it. Feels like it's been a lifetime since we were... She trailed off. Us? He finished. Yeah, us. Ethan was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Naomi, I need to tell you something about why our marriage fell apart. She opened her eyes. I know why it fell apart. Your father didn't approve of me. You chose him over us. End of story. That's part of it, but not all of it. Ethan's hands tightened on the wheel. My father didn't just disapprove. He actively worked to destroy our marriage. He told me you were only with me for money. He said you'd leave me once you got bored of playing house. He put doubts in my head every single day until I started to believe them. Naomi sat up straighter, anger flaring. And you let him. I did because I was scared. He glanced at her. Scared that he might be right. Scared that someone like you could never really love someone like me. Someone like me? Her voice rose. What does that mean? Someone real, someone genuine, someone who saw past the money and the name to the actual person underneath. Ethan's voice cracked. My whole life, people have wanted things from me. Business deals, connections, status. You were the first person who just wanted me, and I couldn't believe it was real. The confession hung in the air between them. Naomi's anger softened slightly. She understood fear. She'd been living with it for months now. Fear that she couldn't do this alone, fear that she'd fail her baby, fear that she wasn't strong enough. "You hurt me," she said quietly. "So badly, Ethan. When you signed those papers, when you walked away, it felt like you were saying I wasn't worth fighting for." You are. I was just too blind and proud to see it." He pulled up in front of her building and turned to face her. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I burned everything to the ground. But I'm asking anyway. Not for me, for our baby. Can we try again? Can we figure out how to be a family?" Naomi looked at his face in the dim light, at the hope written there, at the sincerity she'd been desperate to see 2 years ago. "I was scared too," she admitted. "Scared to tell you about the baby. Scared you'd reject us. Scared your father would try to take the baby away from me. He won't. I won't let him. How can you promise that? He's your father. He has power over you." "Not anymore." Ethan's voice was firm. "I went to see him yesterday. I told him about the baby. And when he started talking about you the way he used to, like you weren't good enough, like you were trying to trap me, I walked out. I chose you, Naomi. I chose our baby. I chose us." Tears slipped down her cheeks. She dreamed of hearing words like these, dreamed of Ethan standing up to his father, dreamed of being chosen. "I'm still scared," she whispered. "Me too." He reached over and wiped her tears gently. "But maybe we can be scared together this time." Naomi looked at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, she leaned forward. Their lips met softly, carefully, like they were both afraid the other might break. The kiss tasted like tears and hope and second chances. It was nothing like their first kiss years ago that had been full of passion and certainty. This was tentative, fragile, but somehow more real. When they pulled apart, both of them were crying. "We take this slow," Naomi said. "One day at a time. No promises we can't keep, no expectations, just trying." "I can do slow," Ethan agreed, "as long as I get to be here, with you, with our baby." "Our baby," Naomi repeated. The words felt foreign but right. She'd been saying "my baby" for so long, claiming sole ownership because she'd been alone. But maybe, just maybe, she didn't have to be alone anymore. Ethan walked her to her apartment door. At the threshold, he hesitated. "Can I call you tomorrow? Check on you?" "Yeah, you can call." He smiled, a real smile that lit up his whole face. Naomi's heart squeezed. She'd forgotten how beautiful his smile was. "Get some rest," he said. "Doctor's orders." "I will. And eat something. A real meal." "Yes, Dad." She said it teasingly, but then froze. "I mean, I know what you meant." His smile widened. "And I'm going to be the most annoying dad ever. Just warning you now." She laughed, despite herself. "Great. That's just great." He kissed her forehead gently, then left. Naomi closed the door and leaned against it, her heart racing. What had she just done? Had she just let Ethan Ward back into her life? The baby kicked, strong and sure. "I hope I'm doing the right thing," she told her belly. "I really, really hope so." The next morning, Ethan showed up at Naomi's door at 9 a.m. He carried bags from the grocery store, his arms full. "What are you doing here?" Naomi asked, still in her pajamas. "You said I could help. I'm helping." He pushed past her gently and headed for the kitchen. "You need proper food, real nutrition, not just toast and tea." "Ethan, doctor's orders, remember? Rest and nutrition." He started unpacking the bags. Fresh fruit, vegetables, chicken, rice. Things Naomi hadn't been able to afford in weeks. "I can't pay you back for all this," she said, a lump forming in her throat. "I'm not asking you to. This is for our baby." He glanced at her. "Unless you don't want it, I can take it back if—" "No." She moved closer, looking at the food spread across her counter. "Don't take it back. Thank you. You're welcome." He found a cutting board and knife. "Now sit down. I'm making you breakfast." "You're making me breakfast?" "Don't sound so surprised. I learned to cook after the divorce. Turns out I'm pretty good at it." Naomi sat at her small kitchen table and watched him work. He moved around her kitchen like he belonged there, finding what he needed, humming softly under his breath. It reminded her of their early days of marriage, before everything went wrong. They used to cook together on Sunday mornings. Pancakes and bacon, laughing over the newspaper, stealing kisses between bites. Those had been good days. She'd almost forgotten. "Scrambled eggs, okay?" Ethan asked. "With toast and fruit?" "Perfect." He cooked efficiently, and soon a plate appeared in front of her. The eggs were fluffy and seasoned just right. The toast was golden. Fresh strawberries sat on the side. "Eat," he commanded gently. She did, and it was delicious, better than anything she'd made for herself in months. Ethan made himself a plate and sat across from her. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. Then Naomi said, "Your father really hated me, didn't he?" Ethan looked up, his expression pained. "He didn't hate you. He's old-fashioned, set in his ways. He had this vision of who I should marry, and you didn't fit that vision. Because I'm black. That was part of it," Ethan admitted. "But also because you weren't from his world. You didn't go to the right schools. You didn't have the right connections. In his mind, marriage is a business transaction, and you didn't bring business value. How romantic." "It's not romantic. It's cold and calculating and everything a marriage shouldn't be." He reached across the table and took her hand. "I'm sorry I ever let his views matter more than us." Naomi squeezed his hand. "We were young. Stupid. I was stupid. You were just trying to love me. I did love you. So much it scared me." "Past tense?" His eyes searched hers. Naomi pulled her hand back. "I don't know what tense to use anymore. Everything's too complicated." "Then let's uncomplicate it." Ethan stood up and started washing the dishes. "Starting with this sink. When did it start leaking? A month ago, maybe longer? I'm fixing it." "Ethan, you don't have to." "I want to." He opened the cabinet under the sink and examined the pipes. "You shouldn't have to deal with this stuff while you're pregnant. Let me help." "Please." So she let him. For the next 3 hours, Ethan fixed everything in her apartment that was broken: the leaking sink, the loose cabinet door, the window that wouldn't open properly. He even tightened the wobbly leg on her kitchen table. Naomi sat on the couch and watched, her hand on her belly. This felt dangerously domestic, dangerously right, like they were actually a couple preparing for a baby together. "You know what's missing?" Ethan said, standing back to admire his work on the sink. "What?" "Baby furniture. Do you have a crib?" Naomi's cheeks flushed. "Not yet. I've been saving, but we're getting one. Today." "Ethan, don't argue. Our baby needs a place to sleep and a changing table, and one of those little bouncy chair things. What else? I'll make a list." "You're being ridiculous." "I'm being a dad." He grinned at her. "Get used to it." Despite herself, Naomi smiled. A real smile that came from somewhere deep inside. When was the last time she'd smiled like this? When was the last time she'd felt light instead of heavy with worry? The baby kicked, as if celebrating. "There it is," Ethan said softly, watching her face. "That smile, I've missed it." "Yeah, well, don't get too excited. I'm still mad at you." "I know, you should be. But maybe you're also a tiny bit happy I'm here?" "Maybe," she admitted. "A tiny bit." They smiled at each other across the small kitchen, and for a moment, Naomi let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, they could make this work. Then her apartment door opened. "Naomi, baby, I brought lunch." Linda Carter froze in the doorway, take-out bags in her hands, staring at Ethan. What is he doing here? The warmth in the room evaporated instantly. "Mama," Naomi said, standing up quickly. "I can explain." "Explain what? Why the man who broke your heart is standing in your kitchen?" "Mrs. Carter," Ethan said carefully, "it's good to see you." "Don't you Mrs. Carter me." Linda set the bags down hard on the counter. "You have some nerve showing up here after what you put my daughter through." "Mama, please." "No, Naomi. I stayed quiet during your marriage while his family treated you like dirt. I held my tongue when you came home crying because his father said you weren't good enough, but I won't stay quiet now." Linda turned her fierce gaze on Ethan. "My daughter is pregnant and vulnerable. If you're here to play games or ease your guilt, you can leave right now." "I'm not here to play games." Ethan's voice was steady. "I'm here because that's my baby Naomi's carrying, and I want to be involved. I want to help. I want to make things right." "Make things right?" Linda laughed bitterly. "You think you can fix 2 years of heartbreak by showing up with groceries?" "No, I think I can start trying. One day at a time." He looked at Naomi. "If she'll let me." Linda followed his gaze to her daughter. "Naomi, tell me you're not falling for this. Tell me you're not letting him back in." Naomi's throat tightened. Her mother's fear was valid. Everything she was saying made sense. "But he's the baby's father, Mama. He has a right to be involved." "Having a right and deserving a chance are two different things." Linda moved closer to Naomi, her voice softening. "Baby girl, I don't want to see you hurt again. You barely survived the divorce. If he breaks your heart again, then I'll survive that too," Naomi said quietly. "But I have to give him a chance for the baby. I have to try." Linda looked between them, at her daughter's hopeful face, at Ethan's determined expression. Finally, she sighed. "Fine. But I'm watching you, Ethan Ward. One wrong move, one broken promise, and you'll have me to answer to, understood?" Understood, Ethan said. I won't let her down. Or the baby, I promise. Promises are easy. Keeping them is hard. Linda picked up her takeout bags. I'll leave this food here. Naomi, you eat. You're eating for two now. I made her breakfast, Ethan offered. And I'll make sure she has lunch and dinner too. Linda's eyebrows rose. You cooked? I did. Huh. She studied him for a moment. Well, that's something, I guess. She kissed Naomi's forehead. Call me later. We need to talk. Yes, Mama. After Linda left, silence settled over the apartment again. But this silence was heavier, weighted with worry. Your mother hates me, Ethan said. She's protecting me. She's seen me broken. She doesn't want to see it again. Neither do I. He moved closer. Naomi, I know I have to prove myself. To you, to your mother, to everyone. And I will. Every single day, whatever it takes. She wanted to believe him, but her mother's words echoed in her head. Promises are easy. Keeping them is hard. Just don't make promises you can't keep, she said. That's all I ask. I won't. Not this time. He stayed for lunch, heating up the food Linda had brought. They talked about baby names and nursery colors and all the normal things expectant parents discussed. It felt surreal and wonderful and terrifying all at once. When Ethan finally left that evening, he kissed her cheek and promised to call tomorrow. Naomi closed the door and leaned against it, her emotions a tangled mess. She was falling for him again, despite everything, despite the pain, despite the warnings. She was falling and she didn't know how to stop. 3 days passed. 3 days of Ethan showing up every morning with food. 3 days of him fixing things around her apartment and making her laugh. 3 days of them slowly rebuilding something that felt fragile but real. Naomi was starting to believe it might actually work. Then Clara showed up. It was early evening. Ethan had just left after helping Naomi assemble a crib he'd bought. The furniture sat in the corner of her bedroom now, white and perfect and ready for their baby. Naomi was washing dishes when someone pounded on her door. She opened it to find Clara on the other side. The woman looked different than she had at the restaurant. Her hair was messy. Her makeup was smudged. Her eyes were red from crying. Can I help you? Naomi asked carefully. You can give me back my boyfriend. Naomi's stomach dropped. Clara, don't. Clara pushed her way into the apartment uninvited. Don't act innocent. I know exactly what you're doing. Using that baby to manipulate Ethan into coming back to you. I'm not manipulating anyone. Please. You show up pregnant, conveniently right when Ethan and I are getting serious and suddenly he can't see straight. He dumps me, stops returning my calls. All because of you and that baby. The baby is his, Naomi said, her voice hard. So you say, but how do I know that's true? How does he know? Clara crossed her arms. Maybe you got pregnant by someone else and saw an opportunity. Rage flooded through Naomi. Get out, now. I'm not going anywhere until you admit what you're doing. You're ruining his life. Again. Clara's voice rose. Ethan and I were happy. We had a future. Then you showed up with your sob story and your baby bump, and he dropped everything for you. Well, I won't let you do this to him. You won't let me? Naomi stepped forward despite her huge belly. This is my apartment, my life, my baby. You have no say in any of it. I have every right to fight for the man I love. Love? Naomi laughed bitterly. You don't love Ethan. You love his money, his status, his mansion on the hill. I've met 100 women like you. You want the lifestyle, not the man. Clara's face went red. How dare you? I dare because it's true. If Ethan lost everything tomorrow, you'd be gone before the sun set. But I loved him when he was just starting out, when his biggest accomplishment was his first business deal, when he drove a used car and lived in a regular apartment. I loved him for who he was, not what he had. And then you divorced him. He divorced me because his family couldn't accept that he married a black woman who didn't come from money. Naomi's voice shook. So don't you dare stand in my home and act like I'm the problem. You know nothing about what we went through. Clara's expression shifted. Uncertainty flickered across her face. He really chose you over me. He chose his baby. Whether he chooses me remains to be seen. If I leave now, you'll have won. This isn't a competition, Clara. This is real life. A real baby. Real consequences. Naomi softened slightly. Look, I know this hurts. I know it's not fair to you. But Ethan and I have history. We have a child on the way. You deserve someone who can give you their whole heart. Ethan can't do that anymore. Not with me and the baby in the picture. Tears streamed down Clara's face. I really thought he was the one. Maybe you thought he was the one you wanted him to be. But the real Ethan is complicated and flawed and still figuring things out. Naomi gestured to the door gently. You should go. Find someone who can love you the way you deserve, because Ethan can't. Not anymore. Clara wiped her face roughly. She looked around the small apartment, at the cheap furniture, at the baby crib in the corner, at Naomi's worn-out clothes. I don't understand what he sees in you. That's because you're looking at what I have instead of who I am. Clara stared at her for another moment. Then she turned and walked out without another word. Naomi closed the door and sank onto the couch, shaking. That confrontation had taken everything out of her. Her phone rang. Ethan's name flashed on the screen. She answered. Hello? Clara just called me. She said she went to your place. He sounded breathless, worried. Are you okay? Did she hurt you? I'm fine, she's gone. I'm so sorry. I had no idea she'd do something like that. If I'd known... Ethan, Naomi cut him off. This is what I was afraid of. Complications. Drama. Your life bleeding into mine and making everything messy. I know, I'm sorry. Stop apologizing. She took a deep breath. I need space. Just for tonight, I need to think. Silence on the other end. Then quietly, okay, if that's what you need. It is. But Naomi, I'm here. Whenever you're ready. I'm not going anywhere. She hung up without responding. The apartment felt too quiet, too empty. Naomi looked at the crib Ethan had assembled, at the groceries he'd bought, at all the little ways he'd been trying to prove himself. But was it enough? Could she really trust him again after everything? Could she risk her heart and her baby's future on a man who'd already walked away once? Her mother's words echoed again. Don't let him break you again. But what if he didn't break her? What if this time was different? What if they could actually make it work? The baby kicked hard, as if reminding Naomi that this decision wasn't just about her anymore. I know, she whispered to her belly. I know you deserve a father. I just wish I knew if he could really be one. She sat alone in the growing darkness, surrounded by all the evidence of Ethan's efforts, and tried to figure out what to do. Love was supposed to be simple. You either felt it or you didn't. But love after heartbreak? That was complicated, messy, terrifying. And Naomi didn't know if she was brave enough to try again, even if her heart was already halfway gone. Ethan didn't sleep that night. He sat in his big empty house and stared at his phone, willing Naomi to call. She didn't. He understood why she needed space. Clara showing up at her apartment was his fault. All the complications, the drama, it all came back to him and his choices. But understanding didn't make the waiting any easier. By 3 in the morning, he was pacing his bedroom like a caged animal. His mind wouldn't shut off. What if Naomi decided he wasn't worth the risk? What if she shut him out completely? What if he lost his chance to be a father before he'd even really started? His phone buzzed. A text from Clara. I'm sorry for going to her place. I was hurt and angry. I shouldn't have done that. He typed back, I'm sorry too, for everything. You deserve better than what I could give you. Her response came quickly. I know. I just wish better was you. Ethan set down his phone and walked to the window. The city sprawled below, all lights and possibilities. Somewhere out there, Naomi was awake too. He could feel it somehow. Could feel her uncertainty, her fear, her hope. He'd meant what he told her. He wasn't going anywhere. No matter how long it took, no matter how hard he had to fight, he would prove he was worth trusting again, even if it took the rest of his life. The next morning, Ethan's phone rang. Not Naomi, his father. We need to talk, James said without preamble. Come to the house now. Ethan almost said no. He had more important things to worry about than his father's demands, but something in James's tone made him pause. This wasn't the usual commanding voice. This was something else. Something almost uncertain. I'll be there in an hour, Ethan said. He drove to his father's estate, his stomach tight with tension. Whatever this conversation was, it wouldn't be pleasant, but maybe it was time to have it anyway. Time to draw final lines in the sand. James waited in his study just like last time, but he wasn't sitting behind his desk in his usual position of power. He stood by the window, his shoulders slumped in a way Ethan had never seen before. Dad? James turned. He looked older somehow, tired. Thank you for coming. What's this about? I've been thinking. About what you said. About the choices I made. James gestured to a chair. Please, sit. Ethan sat, wary. James moved to the chair across from him, not behind the desk, just facing him like equals. I spoke to your mother last night, James began. Ethan's eyebrows rose. His parents had been divorced for 10 years. They barely spoke. She reminded me of something I'd forgotten. When we first got married, my father didn't approve, said she was too young, too flighty, not serious enough for the ward name. James looked down at his hands. I married her anyway, because I loved her. And for years my father made our lives difficult, refused to accept her, criticized everything she did. Eventually the pressure destroyed our marriage. Ethan sat very still, not sure where this was going. I swore I'd never be like him, James continued. But then you brought home Naomi, and all I could see were the differences. Her background, her race, the cultural divide. And I convinced myself I was protecting you from making a mistake, just like my father thought he was protecting me. You weren't protecting me. You were controlling me. I know that now. James finally met Ethan's eyes. Your mother reminded me what it felt like to have love dismissed, to have someone tell you that what you feel isn't real or isn't enough. She asked me if I wanted you to end up like us, divorced, bitter, full of regrets. What did you tell her? That I didn't know anymore, that maybe I'd been wrong. James's voice cracked slightly. I destroyed your marriage, didn't I? I pushed and pushed until you broke. Ethan wanted to say yes, wanted to blame his father for everything, but he was tired of blame, tired of anger. You pushed, he said carefully, but I'm the one who gave in. I'm the one who chose pride over love. That's on me, not you. But I put the doubts in your head, and I let them stay there. Ethan leaned forward. Dad, I'm not saying what you did was okay. It wasn't. You hurt Naomi. You hurt me. You almost destroyed something beautiful because you couldn't see past your own prejudices. James flinched but didn't argue. But I'm done blaming you for my choices, Ethan continued. I'm a grown man. I made my own decisions, bad decisions, and now I have to live with them and try to fix them. Can you? Fix them? I don't know. Maybe, if Naomi lets me. Ethan stood up. But here's what I do know. I'm going to be a father. And when my child is old enough to fall in love, I'm going to support them, no matter who they choose, no matter if that person is black or white or anything else, because love matters more than appearances, more than status, more than any of the things you taught me to value. James was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood too. You're right, about all of it. I let my fear dictate my actions. I let prejudice guide my advice, and I lost my son because of it. You didn't lose me. I did. You stopped calling, stopped visiting, stopped trusting me. James's eyes were wet, and I deserved it. But Ethan, I don't want to lose you completely, or my grandchild. So I'm asking, no, I'm begging, for a chance to do better. Ethan stared at his father. James Ward didn't beg, didn't admit mistakes, didn't show vulnerability. This was unprecedented. What are you saying? I'm saying I want to meet Naomi again. Really meet her, not as the woman who wasn't good enough, but as the mother of my grandchild, as the woman my son loves. James moved closer. I'm saying I was wrong about everything, and if you'll give me a chance, I'd like to try to make amends. Ethan's throat tightened. He'd wanted to hear these words for years, had dreamed of his father finally understanding, finally accepting, finally choosing family over pride. That's not my decision to make, Ethan said quietly. Naomi's the one you hurt most. If you want to make amends, you need to apologize to her, not me. Will she even agree to see me? I don't know. But if you're serious about this, you'll find out. James nodded slowly. Then I'll ask, when the time is right. Ethan turned to leave, then stopped. Dad? Why now? Why this sudden change? James smiled sadly. Because I'm about to be a grandfather, and your mother reminded me that life is too short to waste on pride and prejudice. She said I could either be right or I could be part of my family, but I couldn't be both. Smart woman. The smartest. I should have listened to her more. James walked Ethan to the door. Good luck. With Naomi. With the baby. With everything. And Ethan, I'm proud of you. For being braver than I ever was. The words settled in Ethan's chest. Warm and unexpected. Thanks, Dad. He drove away from the estate, feeling lighter than he had in years. His father wasn't perfect. Might never be perfect. But he was trying, and maybe that was enough. Now if only Naomi would give him the same chance. Naomi spent the day with her mother, talking through everything. Linda made tea and listened as Naomi poured out all her fears and hopes and confusion. Do you love him? Linda asked when Naomi finally fell silent. I never stopped, Naomi admitted. Even when I hated him, even when I was signing divorce papers, I loved him. Then what's holding you back? Fear. What if he leaves again? What if his father causes problems? What if I'm not enough? Linda took her daughter's hands. Baby girl, listen to me. Love is always a risk. Always. There's no guarantee, no promise that things will work out perfectly, but you have to ask yourself, what's scarier, trying and maybe failing, or never trying at all and always wondering what if? What if he breaks my heart again? Then you'll survive, just like you did before, but maybe this time is different. Maybe he's learned. Maybe he's grown up. Linda squeezed her hands. I see how he looks at you, Naomi. That boy is in love, real love, the kind that lasts. How can you tell? Because he looks at you the way your father looked at me before he passed, like you're his whole world, like nothing else matters. Linda's eyes misted. Don't throw that away because you're scared. Your baby deserves parents who love each other, and you deserve to be happy. Naomi wiped her tears. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise, you just don't listen. Linda smiled. Now call that man and tell him you're ready to talk. What do I say? The truth, that you're scared but willing, that you need him to be patient, that love is hard but worth fighting for. Linda stood up. And tell him if he hurts you again, he'll have to answer to me. Naomi laughed through her tears. I will. She waited until evening, until she'd had time to sort through her thoughts. Then she called Ethan. He answered on the first ring. Naomi? Hi. Are you okay? Is the baby okay? We're fine. I needed to think, to figure some things out. And did you figure things out? Naomi took a deep breath. I'm still scared, Ethan. Terrified, actually. But I'm also tired of being alone, tired of pretending I don't still love you. Silence on the other end. Then, roughly, say that again. I love you. I never stopped. And I want to try. For real this time. If you're willing to be patient with me, I'll wait forever if that's what it takes. His voice broke. Naomi, I love you too. So much. I've been miserable without you. Even with Clara? Especially with Clara, because she wasn't you. Nobody's you. Tears streamed down Naomi's face. Good tears this time. Happy tears. So what do we do now? Now we take it one day at a time. Just like you said. No pressure. No expectations. Just us figuring things out. Together? Together. Always. They talked for an hour, making plans and sharing hopes. By the time they hung up, Naomi felt lighter, freer. Like maybe, just maybe, everything would actually be okay. She placed her hand on her belly. Your daddy and I are going to try again, she told the baby. I hope that's okay with you. The baby kicked in response, strong and sure. Naomi smiled and closed her eyes, finally feeling peace. 2 weeks passed. 2 weeks of Ethan and Naomi slowly rebuilding their relationship. They went to doctor's appointments together. They painted the nursery, a soft yellow that worked for any gender. They argued over baby names and laughed at terrible jokes and held hands while watching movies on her worn couch. It wasn't perfect. They had disagreements, moments of tension, times when old hurts bubbled up unexpectedly, but they worked through it, together. Naomi was 1 week from her due date when everything changed. She woke up at 3 in the morning with pain radiating through her belly. Not Braxton Hicks this time. Something different, something urgent. Her water broke as she tried to stand up. Mama! She called out. Linda had been staying with her for the past week, preparing for the baby's arrival. Linda appeared in seconds, took one look at the situation, and moved into action. It's time. Let me get dressed and we'll... Another contraction hit, stronger than the first. Naomi gasped and doubled over. Call Ethan, she managed to say. Please, I need him. Linda grabbed Naomi's phone and dialed while helping her daughter get dressed. Ethan answered, his voice thick with sleep. Mrs. Carter, Naomi's in labor. We're heading to the hospital. Can you meet us there? I'm on my way, 10 minutes. Tell her I'm coming. Tell her to hold on. Linda relayed the message. Naomi nodded, breathing through another contraction. They were coming fast. Too fast. The drive to the hospital was a blur. Linda drove while Naomi counted breaths in the passenger seat. By the time they arrived, Naomi could barely walk. A nurse met them with a wheelchair. How far apart are the contractions? 3 minutes, Linda said. Let's get you upstairs. They wheeled Naomi to a delivery room. Nurses swarmed around her, checking vitals, asking questions, preparing equipment. Everything moved so fast. Too fast. Where's Ethan? Naomi asked, panic rising. I need Ethan. He's coming, baby, Linda soothed. He'll be here. Another contraction ripped through her. Naomi cried out, gripping the bed rails. You're doing great, a nurse said. Just breathe through it. But Naomi couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Everything hurt, and she was scared. And where was Ethan? Then the door burst open. Ethan rushed in, his hair messy, his shirt buttoned wrong, his eyes wild with fear and love and determination. "I'm here," he said, rushing to her side. "I'm here, Naomi. I'm not going anywhere." She grabbed his hand and held on tight. "It hurts." "I know, baby, I know, but you're so strong, you can do this." Dr. Patel appeared calm and efficient as always. "Let's see how far along we are." An examination, instructions, encouragement. "You're at 8 centimeters, Dr. Patel announced. "This baby's ready to meet you." The next hour was a blur of pain and pressure, and Ethan's voice in her ear, steady and sure. "You're amazing. You're doing so good. I love you. I'm so proud of you." Over and over, like a prayer, like a promise. Linda stood on her other side, wiping her forehead with a cool cloth, whispering encouragement. "Push," Dr. Patel commanded. Naomi pushed with everything she had, squeezed Ethan's hand so hard she thought she might break his fingers. Again, "You're almost there." Another push, another wave of pain so intense she thought she might pass out. Then, a cry, small and indignant, and the most beautiful sound Naomi had ever heard. "It's a girl," Dr. Patel announced, lifting the baby for them to see. "A beautiful, healthy girl." Naomi collapsed back against the pillows, exhausted and overwhelmed, and so full of love she thought she might burst. Ethan was crying, full-on sobbing as the nurses cleaned the baby and wrapped her in a blanket. "Do you want to hold your daughter?" a nurse asked, approaching Naomi. Naomi nodded, unable to speak. The nurse placed the tiny bundle in her arms, and Naomi looked down at the most perfect face she'd ever seen. Dark hair, brown skin, eyes trying to focus on her mother's face. "Hi, baby girl," Naomi whispered. "I'm your mama. I've been waiting so long to meet you." The baby made a small sound, her tiny hand reaching out. Ethan reached over and offered his finger. The baby grabbed it instinctively, wrapping her whole hand around it. "She's perfect," Ethan breathed. "Naomi, she's absolutely perfect." "Do we have a name?" Linda asked, peering over at her granddaughter with tears streaming down her face. Naomi and Ethan looked at each other. They'd discussed names endlessly over the past 2 weeks, gone back and forth on dozens of options. But now, looking at their daughter, only one name felt right. "Hope," Naomi said softly. "Her name is Hope." "Hope Carter Ward," Ethan added, looking at Naomi for approval. She smiled through her tears. "Hope Carter Ward." "Perfect." Dr. Patel finished checking Naomi over. "Everything looks good. You did beautifully. Rest now. You've earned it." The nurses bustled around, cleaning up, checking the baby's vitals, giving instructions. But Naomi barely heard them. She couldn't take her eyes off Hope. After a while, Linda kissed both Naomi and the baby. "I'm going to step out. Let you three have some time together as a family." When the door closed behind her, silence settled over the room. "Just Naomi, Ethan, and Hope. I can't believe she's real," Ethan whispered, carefully taking the baby from Naomi so she could rest. He held Hope like she was made of glass, his eyes wide with wonder. "I can't believe I almost missed this." "But you didn't. You're here, that's what matters." Ethan looked up, his face wet with tears. "I'm going to be the best father I can be, I promise. I'll make mistakes, probably lots of them, but I'll never give up. I'll never walk away. Not from her. Not from you." "I know," Naomi said simply, because she did know. She could see it in his eyes, in the way he cradled their daughter, in the way he'd shown up day after day, proving himself. "Marry me," Ethan said suddenly. Naomi's breath caught. "What? Marry me? Again? For real this time? No family pressure, no doubts, just us choosing each other." "Ethan, I know it's crazy. I know we just started figuring things out, but I don't want to waste any more time, Naomi. I want to be your husband. I want Hope to have parents who are committed to each other. I want forever with you." Naomi looked at him holding their daughter, at the love written all over his face, at the certainty in his eyes. She thought about her mother's words. Love is always a risk. She thought about the past 2 weeks, the way Ethan had shown up, the way he'd chosen her and Hope over everything else. She thought about the future, all the moments they could share, all the memories they could make, all the love they could build. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you." Ethan's face broke into the biggest smile she'd ever seen. He carefully leaned over, mindful of the baby in his arms, and kissed her. It was awkward and perfect and sealed with baby sounds and hospital smells and everything that made it real. "I love you," he murmured against her lips. "I love you too." Hope squirmed between them, as if objecting to being squished. They pulled apart, laughing. "Sorry, baby girl," Ethan said, gazing down at his daughter. Your mama and I got carried away. A knock on the door interrupted them. Linda poked her head in. Someone else is here to see you if you're up for visitors. Naomi tensed. Who? James Ward. Ethan looked at Naomi. You don't have to see him if you don't want to. But Naomi thought about what Ethan had told her, about his father's apology, about his desire to change, about second chances. Everyone deserved a second chance, even James Ward. It's okay, she said. He can come in. Linda opened the door wider, and James stepped through. He looked nervous, uncomfortable, nothing like the confident, commanding man Naomi remembered. Naomi, he said quietly, thank you for seeing me. She nodded, not trusting her voice. James moved closer, his eyes going to the baby in Ethan's arms. His face softened in a way Naomi had never seen before. Is that your granddaughter? Ethan confirmed. Hope Carter Ward. James's eyes filled with tears. She's beautiful. She is, Ethan agreed. Then, carefully, do you want to hold her? James looked shocked. May I? Ethan glanced at Naomi for permission. She hesitated, then nodded. Ethan transferred Hope gently to his father's arms. James held the baby like she was the most precious thing in the world, which maybe she was. Hello, little one, James whispered. I'm your grandfather, and I promise you, I'm going to be better for you than I was for your daddy. He looked up at Naomi then, his expression raw. I owe you an apology, a real one. I treated you horribly. I judged you based on prejudice and fear. I pushed my son to divorce you because I thought I knew better. I was wrong, about everything, and I'm deeply, deeply sorry. The apology hung in the air. Naomi studied his face, looking for signs of insincerity, but all she saw was genuine regret. You hurt me, she said finally. You made me feel like I wasn't good enough, like I'd never be good enough. I know, and I can't undo that, but I'd like to try to make it right if you'll let me. Why should I? Because that little girl deserves to know all her family, because my son loves you, and because I want to be part of your lives if you'll have me. Naomi looked at Ethan. He gave her a small smile, leaving the decision up to her. She thought about holding on to anger, about punishing James for his mistakes, about keeping him at arm's length forever. But then she thought about hope, about the kind of world she wanted to raise her daughter in, a world with less anger and more forgiveness, less division and more family. Okay, she said quietly. But if you ever make me feel less than again, I won't. You have my word. James carefully handed Hope back to Ethan. Thank you for the chance. I won't waste it. He left shortly after, giving them space. Linda returned, settling into the chair by Naomi's bed. That was big of you, she said to her daughter. Forgiving him. I didn't do it for him. I did it for Hope, for Ethan, for us. Still, it took courage. Naomi reached for Ethan's hand. He laced his fingers through hers, Hope sleeping peacefully in his other arm. We're going to be okay, Naomi said. Not a question. A statement. Better than okay, Ethan agreed. We're going to be a family. And looking at them, her daughter, her future husband, her mother, Naomi believed it. For the first time in years, she wasn't afraid of the future. She was excited for it. 3 days later, they brought Hope home from the hospital. Ethan had spent those days transforming Naomi's apartment. The nursery was fully equipped now. A rocking chair sat in the corner. Diapers were stocked. Tiny clothes filled the dresser. When did you do all this? Naomi asked, looking around in amazement. While you were sleeping at the hospital. I wanted everything ready. It's perfect. They settled Hope into her crib for the first time. The baby stretched and yawned, content. Naomi and Ethan stood side by side, watching their daughter sleep. I can't believe she's ours, Naomi whispered. I can't believe I almost missed this. Ethan wrapped his arm around her waist, pulling her close. Thank you for giving me another chance. Thank you for fighting for us. They stood like that for a long time, just watching Hope breathe, in and out. So small, so perfect, so full of possibility. What do we do now? Naomi asked. Now we love her. We raise her. We show her what it means to choose family over everything else. Ethan kissed Naomi's temple. And somewhere along the way we plan a wedding. A small wedding, Naomi said. Nothing fancy, just family and friends. Whatever you want, as long as I get to call you my wife again. Naomi smiled. I like the sound of that. Hope stirred in her sleep, making small noises. Both parents tensed, ready to spring into action. But the baby settled again, dreaming baby dreams. We're going to mess up, Naomi said quietly. We're going to make mistakes, probably, but we'll make them together this time. Together, she agreed. Later that evening, after Hope had been fed and changed and was sleeping soundly, Naomi and Ethan sat on the couch. She leaned against him, exhausted but happy. "You know what I realized?" she said. "What?" "We never would have gotten here if we hadn't fallen apart first. The first time we got married, we were young and naive. We thought love was enough, but now we know better. We know love takes work and courage and choosing each other every single day. We're older and wiser. And scarred. Don't forget scarred." She touched his face gently. "But maybe our scars made us better, made us appreciate what we have." "I don't think I'd change anything," Ethan said. "I mean, I wish I hadn't hurt you, but if we'd stayed together back then, we might have taken each other for granted. Now I know exactly how precious this is. How precious you are." Naomi kissed him softly. "When did you get so wise?" "When I almost lost everything that mattered." They sat in comfortable silence, listening to Hope's soft breathing through the baby monitor. Outside, the city hummed with life, but inside this small apartment, everything was exactly where it needed to be. "I love you," Naomi said. "I love you too, both of you. Forever, forever," Naomi repeated. And this time, she believed it. This time, they both did. Because they'd learned the hardest lesson of all. Love isn't about perfection. It's about choosing to stay when things get hard. It's about forgiveness and second chances. It's about building something real together, brick by brick, day by day. They'd lost each other once. They wouldn't make that mistake again. Hope stirred on the monitor. Both parents stood immediately, ready to tend to their daughter, ready to start their new life, together, as a family. And as they walked into the nursery side by side, Naomi realized something important. She wasn't afraid anymore. She was home. Epilogue. 6 months later, Naomi stood in her mother's backyard, wearing a simple white dress. Nothing fancy, nothing extravagant, just beautiful. Hope sat in Linda's arms, wearing a tiny yellow dress, watching her parents with curious eyes. Ethan stood at the makeshift altar, his eyes wet, as he watched Naomi walk toward him. No country clubs this time, no pretentious guest list, just 30 people who actually mattered, family, real friends, people who'd supported them through everything. James Ward sat in the front row holding a tissue. His transformation over the past 6 months had been remarkable. He'd apologized to Naomi multiple times. He'd started therapy to address his prejudices. He'd become an involved grandfather who showed up for babysitting duty without complaint. He still had a long way to go, but he was trying. That's what mattered. The ceremony was short and sweet. They said vows they'd written themselves, promising to choose each other, to fight for their family, to never let pride come between them again. When the officiant said, "You may kiss your bride," Ethan pulled Naomi close and kissed her like he'd never let her go. Everyone cheered. Hope made a delighted squeal. At the reception, they danced under string lights, ate food Linda had cooked, laughed with friends, celebrated the second chance they'd almost missed. "Happy?" Ethan asked, twirling Naomi under the stars. "So happy I could burst." "Me too." Hope started crying, ready for her evening feeding. Naomi excused herself to nurse the baby, while Ethan entertained their guests. Linda found her in the house. Hope latched on contentedly. "You did good, baby girl," Linda said, sitting beside her daughter. "Real good." "We still have hard days," Naomi admitted. "Days when old fears pop up. Days when we argue. That's marriage, that's life. What matters is you don't give up when it gets hard." "I won't, not this time." Linda kissed her forehead. "I'm proud of you. Your father would be too." Tears pricked Naomi's eyes. Her father had died when she was 15. She'd always wondered what he would think of her life, her choices, her family. "I hope so," she whispered. "I know so. You chose love over fear. That takes real courage." Outside, laughter floated through the open windows. Ethan's voice rose above the others, telling some story that made everyone crack up. Naomi smiled. This was her life now, messy and imperfect and absolutely beautiful. She finished feeding Hope and carried the baby back outside. Ethan's face lit up when he saw them. "There are my girls," he said, opening his arms. They gathered together, Naomi, Ethan, and Hope, a family forged through heartbreak and rebuilt through love. "I have an announcement," Ethan said to the gathered crowd. "Tomorrow we move into our new house, all 3 of us, a real home where we can build our future together." Applause erupted. Naomi looked at him, surprised. "You found a house?" "Our house, not too big, not too small, with a yard for Hope to play in, and close enough to your mother that she can still boss us around." Linda laughed. "You know me too well." As the party continued into the night, Naomi stood back and watched her family. Her mother dancing with James Ward, both of them laughing at something. Her friends celebrating genuine joy. Her husband, holding their daughter and looking at them both like they hung the moon. This was what happy looked like. Not perfect, not fairy tale, just real, honest, true. She'd thought her story with Ethan was over, finished, done. But it turned out they were just at the beginning. A new beginning, a better one, built on truth and trust, and the courage to try again. Ethan caught her eye across the yard. He mouthed, "I love you." She mouthed it back, her heart full to bursting. Because sometimes the greatest love stories aren't about finding the perfect person. They're about two imperfect people refusing to give up on each other. They're about second chances. They're about hope. And Naomi had all the hope she needed, sleeping peacefully in her husband's arms. The end.